tonight.
This is a picture of my oldest child.
A grieving mom says the government's newly introduced parental rights bill is a smokescreen to distract from real issues, like the suicide of her gender-diverse child. Also, a rally of support for the family of a little girl killed by an alleged impaired driver. But now, the Saskatoon trial is on pause. Plus, reaction as the conflict in Israel and Gaza reverberates here in Saskatchewan.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Thursday, October 12th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening and thank you for joining us. Saskatchewan's new and controversial Parents' Bill of Rights is now public and being debated in the legislature. We'll bring you all the details in just a moment on that, but before the bill could be introduced, a Saskatchewan mother was at the legislative building to suggest the new bill is a smokescreen to distract people from real issues. As Bonnie Allen reports, her non-binary child died by suicide in May.
This is a picture of my oldest child. Born as Haley Mackenzie Lawson on February 23rd, 2009. In approximately 2020-2021, Haley came out as pansexual and non-binary and requested we call her B going forward and use the pronouns they, them.
Sarah Mackenzie's 14-year-old child B died by suicide in May. Mackenzie came here to the legislative building with the NDP by her side before the Sask Party government introduced an amendment to the Education Act, a Parents' Bill of Rights. It will force teachers to get parental consent before a child under 16 can use a different gender expression at school.
I think that the government is trying to, they don't want to be held accountable for these deaths. And I believe that they're using this new issue as a smokescreen to divert attention and to continue to divide us as a society so that we can't band together and demand change.
For years, B struggled with mental health issues and addiction. B lost hope after losing 4 friends to either suicide or an overdose. Mackenzie says there are many holes in the system, including a lack of counseling in schools and in the community.
If you want a decent psychologist or a decent counselor, you have to pay a lot of money to get that care. The free counselors that you want to get into, the wait lists are unreal.
First and foremost, I'm so sorry for your loss. Any family that loses a family member in this province, Mr. Speaker, we certainly are sorry for that loss, and I can't even fathom the loss of a child, Mr. Speaker. When it comes to mental health supports in this province, there's more work to do.
This is not an aw shucks, wait and see, we need to do better moment, Mr. Speaker. They are the government, and it is their responsibility to do what it takes to keep children alive in this province.
The government says it's spending hundreds of millions of dollars on mental health and addiction supports.
No one should have to bury their child.
Mackenzie says making kids feel safe and accepted at school should be a starting point. Bonnie Allen, CBC News.
The provincial government says this new legislation will affirm a parent's role in their child's education. The opposition says by invoking the notwithstanding clause, the government is overriding children's rights. Adam Hunter has more on that.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill number 137, the Education Parents' Bill of Rights Amendment Act 2023, be now introduced and read a first time.
Education Minister Jeremy Cockrell introduced the amendments to the Education Act titled the Parents' Bill of Rights. Once passed, the law will require schools to get consent from parents before a child under 16 can use a different gender-related name or expression. The bill also says if a child feels they will suffer physical, emotional, or mental harm in obtaining consent, the principal will direct the child to school support staff to develop a plan to eventually tell their parent. The government says the legislation will keep parents informed and support students.
This policy is something that is important to
a large majority of Saskatchewan people, Saskatchewan parents. It's important to our government. And so, that's why we're coming back and, really offering the opposition, an incredible number of additional hours to provide, in less time, but more hours for a bill.
Opposition House Leader Nicole Sarr scoffed at the government's claim that the bill can be scrutinized properly in a week, even with 40 hours of debate, which is double the regular amount. In the House, she stalled the start of that debate by speaking for 2 hours following question period.
To call that extra time, extra scrutiny is an absolute joke. And it's a farce, and it's a slap in the face to democracy in this province, Mr. Speaker. Especially, Mr. Speaker, when we're talking about a piece of legislation that is going to use the notwithstanding clause to trample on the rights of Saskatchewan children.
The government's bill also invokes the notwithstanding clause as it pertains to certain sections of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the Saskatchewan Human Rights Code. The education minister says he's comfortable with that. Government members and opposition MLAs will be back in the House to debate on Monday afternoon. The emergency session and extended hours are expected to start on Tuesday at 9 a.m. till 11 p.m. all the way through Sunday. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Saskatoon police say a man has been arrested, accused of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl in a hospital washroom. Police say it happened yesterday at Royal University Hospital. The girl told hospital security that a man threatened her with a weapon, took her to a washroom, confined her, and sexually assaulted her. Before police arrived, University of Saskatchewan Protective Services officers found and detained a male suspect, but they did not find any weapons. Police say a 43-year-old man from Black Lake is now facing multiple charges, including sexual assault with a weapon and unlawful confinement. A high-profile trial in Saskatoon has been adjourned until February. A judge will now decide whether to allow critical evidence against a woman accused of impaired driving. Taylor Kennedy is alleged to have had THC in her system when she hit and killed 9-year-old Bailey Maurice with her truck. People gathered outside provincial court this morning to call for justice. Maurice died in September 2021 when she was hit at a crosswalk on 33rd Street. Today, officers said Kennedy was hysterical after the crash. Eventually, after they calmed her down, she told them she'd used cannabis and magic mushrooms the day before the crash to help with her anxiety. Police had not charged Kennedy nor read her rights before she made the admission. Without it, they may not have tested her for THC. The judge will rule on whether to allow it. The family is losing patience.
It's been almost 2 years, so every time the family has to attend court, every time the family has to be here, it's triggering, it's traumatizing. Sitting in court and watching that video over again, because there's videos of Taylor Kennedy hitting Bailey Maurice. She did not slow down. She did not, no, she was at a crosswalk, and yet she's still pleading not guilty. And they're still having a fight for justice for this little girl.
Meanwhile, the city of Saskatoon is putting the finishing touches on safety improvements to the crosswalk where the little girl was struck and killed. The curb has been extended and parking restrictions imposed to improve sightlines. Overhead flashing orange lights were also installed to indicate it's a pedestrian corridor. The city consulted with Maurice's family and painted the posts blue, the little girl's favorite color. Police officers have been welcomed inside Regina schools for more than 4 decades. But when some community members called for the school resource officer program to be cut, the public and Catholic school divisions commissioned a review. Laura Sharpoletti has more on the results and the recommendations.
A recent review of the school resource officer program shows strong support amongst parents and staff for police in schools. But those who are Indigenous or identify as LGBTQ are less likely to feel it's important. They say having uniformed police in school makes them feel watched, monitored, targeted, or stereotyped. Something Regina's deputy police chief understands.
A lot of those relationships are built on historical relationships between communities and police. You think about Indigenous communities and the historical role of police and taking children from homes, right? So that, that has a lot of trauma attached. And then even with the LGBT plus community as well, there's a lot of that historical relationship.
The program puts 15 police officers into different schools, sometimes in plain clothes, other times, like this Toronto program, in full uniform with guns. This Regina Public Schools board trustee says that's disturbing to newcomers and should end.
So this is a push why armored police creating discomfort and uneasiness for some of the marginal community members, and we refuse to acknowledge and that to make sure we create a safe environment and inclusive.
One recommendation is for all officers to be in plain clothes. Another is to raise awareness, especially among newcomers, about what this program accomplishes.
I've suggested that there's a bit of irony to that in the fact that our job is education, and perhaps we've missed an opportunity here for years now to educate our students and some families and some community members in terms of what the role really does on a daily basis.
Police say resource officers help prevent or end conflict in schools and build trusting relationships with students.
One of our school resource officers had someone 5 years out of high school reach out to say, I'd like to report a historic sexual assault, and I feel safe reporting it to you because I trust you and we've had that relationship.
Regina police say they are taking the recommendations seriously. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
Saved by Omar. Coming around is Bedard. He scores!
Well, the Blackhawks may have lost 3-1 to the Bruins in the NHL last night, but fans of Connor Bedard were happy anyway. The young phenom drafted from the Regina Pats scored his first goal just 5:37 into the first period. Bedard now has collected 2 points in his first 4 periods of NHL hockey. He earned an assist in victory over the Penguins the night before. At 18 years and 86 days old, yes, people track this, only 6 active NHLers scored their first goal at a younger age. We'll be back after the break.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist Ethan Williams joins me now. A couple of sunny days and now a couple of cloudy days.
Yes, the clouds certainly did return, especially here in Saskatoon this morning. And those built in a little quicker than we thought they were going to, but starting to dissipate now. Let's take a look at where we're at on satellite and radar, and even just kind of over the past 3 hours or so here, we've been starting to see that cloud thin out a bit. Still a bit cloudy in some spots, but the sun coming out, and we have really starting to see that sun come out later this afternoon in northern Saskatchewan, where the temperatures have definitely been warm today. Just a few minutes ago, Uranium City was still reporting 16 degrees. Very, very warm for this time of year in that part of the province. In the cloud cover a bit further south and through south and central Saskatchewan, we've kind of been seeing those temperatures now dropping below the 10-degree mark, but they've been hovering about seasonal through the afternoon, 11 or 12 degrees or so. I showed you this board yesterday, but I just have to do it again today because, again, northern Saskatchewan, that warmth is really quite impressive. Some 12 to 14 degrees above seasonal for this time of year, especially in the far north. Didn't break any records yesterday. We might have today. We'll have to check on that tomorrow. We know that yesterday, though, portions of Nunavut actually ended up breaking some temperature records. Not too usual for this time of year for sure there. Taking a look at where we're at with winds, again, southeastern Saskatchewan, we have seen those pick up still a little bit today through the day. Regina, we had some gusts kind of here and there, but those are starting to diminish around the 40-kilometer-an-hour range right now around the Estevan area. In terms of that cloud cover, though, we are going to start to see that build back a little bit as we head through the overnight hours, especially in eastern sections of the province, including in Regina. Heading through the day tomorrow, especially in the morning hours, we may see a few showers before those taper off again. That'll be kind of in Regina and southeastern sections. Saturday is when we really start to get some decent clearing through much of the province. Now, those winds going to be gusty again in kind of western sections of the province. I told you yesterday there's a bit of a system moving through Alberta, which will pick those up a little bit tomorrow. Not by too much, though. It's really as we get into Saturday, we're going to start to see those gusts get into that 40 to 50 range, generally coming from the south. So the flow of that air is still quite warm. And in the upper atmosphere, That pattern keeping us warm as well. You kind of see the crux of that heat over northern Saskatchewan, and that's why we're seeing that there. As we head through the next few days, that ridge just going to continue to really stay in place. It doesn't really move all that much, and so that means that we are going to continue to benefit from that warmth that upper atmospheric pattern has been bringing us. And in Regina, that means that over the next couple of days here, we'll sit near seasonal, but we should manage to stay out of the freezing mark for our overnight lows. And look at that, by Tuesday, nearly getting close to 20 degrees. We may have some showers Wednesday, but then clearing out Thursday. Saskatoon seeing that warmth as well. Few days of near 12 degrees here, again a little bit clearer than the south and south part of the province tomorrow. Then those temperatures really resurging, Sam, as we head into next week. So near 20 degrees as we head through October. Very rare for, or pretty rare for this time of year for sure.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
It's what I live for. Halloween, it's the best.
Rhode Island's Tim Perry has spent 15 years creating House of 1,000 Pumpkins, inspired by his favorite horror movie, House of 1,000 Corpses. He hand carves the plastic gourds. Each one has a rock and roll theme to match his favorite music. Perry takes about a week to set up and wire the display, and by the time he's done this year, he expects to have nearly 1,400 pumpkins arranged on his front lawn. We'll be back after the break.
When it comes to your news, you want up-to-the-minute access. Anytime, anywhere. Get the facts straight from the source. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca for news you can trust.
It is day 6 in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Thousands of Israeli troops are positioned along the border with Gaza. The Israeli military preparing for a ground offensive should leaders give the order. Israel's bombardment of Gaza continues in response to the deadly surprise attack by Hamas on Saturday. Meantime, Hamas militants have fired thousands of rockets into Israel, and there are fears the conflict could spread in the region. On the ground in Gaza, there's no electricity as the power plant ran out of fuel yesterday. Hospitals are overwhelmed and running out of supplies. Israel says nothing will be allowed into Gaza until Israeli hostages are released. As we continue to follow this story, CBC's Paul Hunter traveled to one of the locations attacked by Hamas on Saturday, the site of a music festival close to the border with the Gaza Strip.
This is the scene of that rave last Saturday where so many Israelis were massacred. The Israeli Defense Force has allowed journalists in today to look around at what's left, and it is almost undescribable. Even as we speak, there's what seems to be artillery fire. Fighter jets have been going overhead. There's been explosions just off in the distance. We're very close to the Gaza Strip here, where Hamas came and killed. Everywhere you look, there are destroyed cars. There are bullet holes everywhere, broken glass, of course. There's blood in the sand still, all over the place, burnt out cars. What's striking is the scale. It goes on and on and on. There were so many people here, chased down, murdered. 260 people were killed here. The bodies have been taken away. This is so that we can see. The whole place is a testament to the horror of what happened. Everything trashed as all those lives were destroyed and ended. It is nauseating. Paul Hunter, CBC News, just outside the Gaza Strip.
This conflict is reverberating here in Saskatchewan. People from different backgrounds are watching in horror as the violence escalates.
The dehumanization of Palestinians that results in the dehumanization of Israelis, and it's a circle of violence that keeps going because both parties, or the political entities in both parties, dehumanize each other. What we're seeing today was just a result of this circle of dehumanizations.
Ahmad Al-Disi is a professor in veterinary pathology at the University of Saskatchewan. He's also affiliated with Canadians for Justice and Peace in the Middle East. He wants a peaceful resolution, as does the president of Congregation Agudas Israel. He says many in the Jewish community are suffering.
I hope, like I know every reasonable person is hoping for, and that is a de-escalation of violence and peace and calm. Because right now there's nothing good that's going to come of it. And politics right now doesn't have any place in the discussion. We just need to end this.
Both Al-Disi and Sharf say they pray for their relatives and friends to remain safe. Canada has announced an initial $10 million in funding for humanitarian assistance. The money will help provide food, water, and emergency medical assistance. Canada says it will ensure no money gets into the hands of Hamas. A portion of the funding will support the Canadian Red Cross and its partners. And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather. It's almost a boring forecast, Ethan.
Indeed, yes. And well, tonight we are expecting to see those clouds that have built back in today starting to clear out. Let's take a look at where we're going to be at midnight in Regina, again sitting around 3 degrees or so. And yes, those winds starting to back off. That's a good thing. We've been seeing those picking up a little bit through the day today. And tomorrow, yes, maybe just the chance of a morning shower before we get to the noon hour. Again, those winds backing off. That's one thing that we're definitely noticing tomorrow, but still maybe a little bit of increasing cloudiness as we head through the afternoon, but showers will be kind of light and few between. Saskatoon, I think things will stay mostly clear for us tonight, sitting around 2 degrees. Tomorrow at the 8 a.m. hour, just sitting above the freezing mark, mainly sunny conditions. And then as we head to the afternoon, as I say for Saskatoon, I think things will be a little bit sunnier, around 10 degrees. Shorts and sandals weather, Sam, maybe not tomorrow, but definitely on the way.
Not putting those away. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you, a meme of a mom playing a Game Boy with 4 kids huddled around her has been on the internet for years. Turns out Game Boy Mom is from Saskatchewan, and a YouTuber did some internet sleuthing to track her down. Dan Plaster has their story.
Do you remember this meme? For more than 10 years, it's been shared across the internet. It started in 2012 on Reddit's r/gaming. The mystery surrounding this wholesome family moment was finally solved by internet sleuth, YouTuber Sakura Stardust. The family photo was taken in Prince Albert's, and the mom in the middle is Deborah Tooley.
I decided to just search Reddit specifically and find the earliest post. And that's when I found Zoza Cloud's original post from 2011. I couldn't find anything before that. The difference with those posts, with the later posts and that one specifically, is that he referred to the mother in the photo as his own mother.
He just messaged me out of the blue, and she's like, "Do you mind if I asked you a few questions and maybe did a video?" I said, "Absolutely, yeah." I posted on Reddit back in 2012, and just an innocent, "Here's my mom in a cute photo."
So they would come over and they get to that level, they bring it over to me and say, "Okay, Auntie Debbie, or Mom, get us past this level." And they were watching to see how I did it so they could recreate that.
It blew up, like millions of views in a matter of weeks, and we just didn't expect that.
I grew up in the 90s playing like Mario Kart with my mom, or like Super Mario World, stuff like that. And while I don't have a lot of photos of us playing video games together, that photo in itself and their story behind the photo just reminds me so much of my mom.
It wasn't until Sakura and Scott sort of got together on this little project that I realized how popular it was. And it's not necessarily just here, it's like all over the world, other languages and stuff. So it just blew me away.
We couldn't be more proud that she really put justice to our memory.
Well, that brings back memories. What a great story. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to our website, our YouTube channel, or download the CBC app. Ethan and I will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.